What's up guys, today I'm going to be teaching you how to get better at Apex Legends. I love this game a lot and I have a bunch of hours into it, a ton of wins and a ton of kills, and I want to make this video mainly for people who are good at the game but don't really know what to do to get better. This video is going to be a little long and I'm not going to be able to cover everything I want to, so I will be making multiple videos for different things I want to cover. However, for this video alone, I will be breaking it down into a couple different categories, with our first category being Legends. Legends in Apex play a huge role for multiple reasons. They can have huge advantages and huge disadvantages if not played right. When you load into the game, it's the first thing that you do. You pick your character and that really sets the basis of how you're going to play. For instance, if you chose Caustic, you need to play a lot more passive because if you get caught in the open trying to play aggressive, your abilities become almost useless. This is where choosing a legend can be bad for you and how the other team can get a giant advantage because they know you can't do anything to protect yourself. However, it does go both ways. When you play against people, it's important to see what kind of legend they're playing, as this can determine of how you want to go about fighting them. Like for instance, I'm a Bangalore main, and if I see a Bloodhound, I'm not going to pop smokes because of his scan and his ultimate, because I know it's an easy way for him to see through it and beat me and my teammates. So what I would try and do is take out the Bloodhound first by finding where he's at and team shotting him, because once he's down, I'm free to use my smoke. And as an added plus, if I have a digital threat, I can see through it and get easy knocks on his other teammates. It's things like this that can help give you an edge over your opponents. And that's just one of the many situations that you might find yourself in. And of course they will vary depending on who you're playing and who they're playing, but just always remember to be on the lookout because you don't want to end up killing you and your teammates. Another thing that ties into Legends is running a team comp. You want to use a Legend's ability to reinforce another's. For instance, even though I keep going back to it, Bangalore and Bloodhound are an amazing combo due to Bloodhound being able to see through her smoke, which is huge as the other team is left almost completely blind. However, there are some rules that go into building a team comp. The first of which is having a good escape plan. If you're getting third partied, you want to have an ability that can get you out of the fight in a pinch, like a jump pad, a zipline, or a portal. Then you want to have protection in order to get reses off, like smoke, a Gibby dome, a lifeline shield, death protection, or even a portal. Next, have something for gatekeeping or DPS, like clones, a strike, death protection, a way to see where the enemies are at, like crypto or bloodhound, etc. You really want to make it to where your biggest advantage is being able to defend when need be and being able to attack when someone is low or knocked. The next thing I want to talk about though is weapons and gun loadout. Weapons are also very important, because after all, this game is a first-person shooter first. Every gun in this game has its own purpose. There's not one gun that's weaker than the other. Well, besides the Mozambique. But even with hammer point, it can still get a kill. However, I would definitely recommend using a long range and a short to medium range gun. Like using a G7 and a Volt could be a perfect combination. But using a Volt and a Devotion can be bad because of all the energy ammo it takes, and you don't really have a solid long range gun to combat someone who's long distance. Like if you're trying to go head to head with someone and you got a Volt and they have a G7 or a Hemlock, you're going to get destroyed trying to close that gap. I would also recommend kind of going into firing range and just practicing your aim with no attachments just a few minutes a day until you get comfortable, so when you play online with attachments, you're a complete laser. The next and most important thing I want to talk about is map knowledge. Map knowledge is key in Apex Legends for a few reasons. Knowing the map and how rotations and certain cover elements work can completely change the tide of a game. Knowing where to rotate after landing is very beneficial because it helps with getting kills, which in turn helps with getting more loot. Knowing where the storm is going to end and how to rotate in, that way you have better position over other teams, is very key also. Being able to abuse cover is also very helpful, and that all comes from knowing the map really well, because you'll be able to position yourself at a point where you could defend from all sides. And it also helps to know it because you can predict where people are going to go to get cover or where they're going to hide. So it's very, very important to pay attention to the areas around you when you play. That way in the future you can use it to your advantage and outsmart other players. The next thing I want to talk about is loot. Even though it seems very small and not beneficial, knowing how to loot and how to disperse loot can be huge. Loot is the core element in any battle royale. It determines whether you're going to be passive and pick people off when you get a chance, or if you're going to be aggressive and take every single fight that you get. This is also important in Apex Legends because every single gold item has their own unique ability. like the gold knockdown being able to res yourself with the risk of you being open to being BM and it also taking 15 seconds to do so. Having good shields and good knockdowns is very beneficial in taking more fights because you'll know you have a lot more health to deal with, and if you get knocked, you have a way of protecting yourself with a good knockdown shield. Another thing I kind of want to touch on is when you land in. You want to talk to your teammates beforehand and determine who gets what and where, that way no one is stepping on each other's toes and you can loot up quick. Like for example, don't all land at the top of a location because no one's going to get anything and you guys will get killed by another team that actually has loot. So my tip is split off in 3 corners and meet right up in the middle. That way everyone gets enough loot and you can start your rotation and push in to get early kills and easy loot. Another thing I want to mention is that certain gold items are better on certain legends. Like for instance, a gold backpack is very good on Lifeline since she can revive fast without having to be there. So I usually categorize it like this. Gold backpack goes to Lifeline, Gibby, Mirage, and Bangalore. Gold helmet goes to Pathy, Lifeline, Wraith, and Caustic since they can get their abilities back a lot more quicker. So if you're an Octane with a gold helmet, just drop it. You kind of really don't need it. You already get your stim fast enough, so just drop it, be a good teammate, get some wins. So these are just some extra tips that don't really fit into a category, but just some tips I found helpful when I was trying to get better. First things first, when you're on the dropship, look around and see where people are landing, see how many people are landing with you, see what buildings they're going to, you know, stuff like that. That way you don't get destroyed by some random dude you didn't even know that came there. This also helps rotating out of your landing area since you saw where people went and you know where to go after you clear out your location. Another thing I recommend is change your FOV. It's very important. Personally, I put it on the max 110 because you can see so much more around you and it's just very useful, and I definitely recommend it to anyone who's trying to get better. I also recommend going into firing range and just messing around with your sensitivity a little bit. Just do little things to help fine-tune your aim. I'll probably make another separate video talking about my settings and the things I use because, you know, it's a little different, you know what I mean? Apex offers a lot of customization to, you know, keybinds and stuff like that, especially on console, so I'll probably make a separate video for that, so be on the lookout. Another thing I would recommend is messing around with gun skins and player skins because sometimes certain gun skins mess with iron sights and make it feel bulky to where you can't really hit shots at all. Same with legend skins, you could definitely feel the bulkiness with the skin you picked, like with the hands. Their hands could seem a little bigger and it could just mess up your aim. You know, certain things like that, just mess around with it. Another thing I forgot to mention is all legends have different hitboxes. So that's something you really kind of want to consider when you're going against enemies and when you're choosing your main. Like for instance, Wraith has the lowest hitbox. So since she's so short, you'll kind of aim a little bit towards like the floor, kind of towards her legs, because with recoil and everything else, you know what I mean, you'll hit more shots on her. Also, another thing that kind of ties in with hitboxes, depending on the legend that you pick, your gun is going to be sitting a little higher or a little lower. Like when you're playing Wraith, since you're so short, your gun's going to be a little lower to the ground. If you're playing Revenant, your gun's going to be a little higher because he's so tall. You know what I mean? Certain things like that you just got to think of. There's a lot of things in this game that you have to consider, and I know it's a lot to take in, but the number one tip I can give you is just practice. Take some time to understand the way things work, the way people play, and you'll honestly be a machine in no time. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you learned something, just leave a like, leave a comment, you know, just let me know what you learned. You know, any feedback is feedback, you know what I mean, whether it's good or negative, you know what I mean, it still helps me understand whether I'm going in the right direction or not. And as always, I hope you guys have a great day or a great night or whatever, and yeah, talk to you guys later.